of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, we are on Good Morning Uganda, and you are watching Good Morning Uganda. We are coming to you live here at Nile Avenue. This is Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Thank you so much for joining us, and if you've been with us since the beginning, thank you so much for sticking with us, and we hope that you stick around for this conversation that will be enlightening and very interesting. Well, we delve into an overview of the East African community integration, its milestones, achievements, and challenges. And I will be speaking to Dr. Andrew Mosime, who is the head of the Directorate of Economic Affairs and Production at the Ministry of East African Community Affairs. And I will also be speaking to Mr. Mosige Sam, who is the Acting Commissioner Economic Affairs, still at the Ministry of East African Community Affairs, Uganda. You're welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Now, delving into our conversation, let's start from the beginning. My curiosity here is, what were the primary reasons behind the formation of the East African community?
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers. Once again, greetings from the Ministry of East African Community Affairs, and more especially from our political leadership, the First Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister for East African Community Affairs, the Right Honorable Rebecca Aritwara Kadaga, our Minister of State, Honorable James Ikuya Magode, and our dear Permanent Secretary, Madam Edith Mwanje, and all the staff. We are happy to be here, but specifically the East African Community is an organization, it's an interstate organization that was formed, or that came back into light on 30th June 1999, precisely as you have asked, to make sure that as East African countries, then the 3 of them, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, come together to cooperate and deepen relations basically at a regional level.
Yes.
So in terms of the reason why East African community is there, number one is basically to deal with the promotion of economic ties or economic relations, to be able to promote and ensure strategic security within the region. But more also importantly is the original ties between these 3 countries or what you might call fraternal relations or relations between our people for a long time. And the last but also importantly is to ensure that countries that are within the same region are able to create their own market, a market that can guarantee access for the goods and services amongst the partner states.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, the other pertinent question is that East African community is all about integration. And one would wonder, how does regional integration benefit member states economically, politically, and socially? Basically, why should we integrate?
Yeah, specifically to that, let me also use the opportunity to mention that as a community, the East African community has been a very attractive community that has grown. As you can see, from 1999, we were 3 members. Later in 2004, we are joined by Rwanda and Burundi, making it 5. Later, then Republic of South Sudan joined, then the Democratic Republic of Congo, and then the Republic of Somalia. So it's now a big community of 8 partner states with a population close to 300 million people. And therefore, one of the biggest interests would be the increasing market. Of course, now the East African community touches on both sides of the African continent, on the both oceans, right away from Matadi Port in DRC to Mombasa, which gives an opportunity for traders to be able to do business and trade within this bigger area. So in terms of the interest as why majorly countries join these regional economic communities like the EAC, number one is to ensure that the opportunities that come from this integration, especially in terms of market size, number two, the opportunities that emerge within the levels of cooperation that you are able to plan. For example, under the East African community, we have a treaty that established the community. This treaty spells out 17 areas of cooperation. So we cooperate under 17 areas ranging from education, trade, infrastructure, health, to mention but a few. But last and importantly is that our integration in the EAC is anchored on the 4 pillars. And usually when we talk about the milestones and achievements, they can be well articulated under the 4 pillars, which is the customs union, the common market, the monetary union, and the political federation. Okay. So my colleague will be picking up on some of these achievements in the different pillars that we have attained over this period of integration.
Okay.
Thank you.
And coming to you, Mr. Musige, I would like for us to look at the progress of the East African community integration, especially evaluate what the achievements have been over the last 25 years.
Thank you, presenter. Good morning, viewers. The East African community, as they have said, the achievements are indeed many, they are immense. Like we have said, we shall look at them on the various pillars, like we talked about the customs union, the common market, and the monetary union. Now, under the customs union's major reason is for a seamless flow of goods across within the partner states. That is from all these partner states from Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, South Sudan. So, in other words, what used to take about 2 weeks for goods to move from Mombasa to maybe Kigali now takes 3 to 4 days because of that cooperation, because of the single customs territory. In other words, goods are moving as if they are from the same state, as if they are moving from Kabale to Arua, the same country, because of that cooperation. That is one. 2, we also have issues to do with, now we have what we call the East African passport. You find that we have the same passport, same features under the passport. We also have, like, we use of national IDs when we are moving within. If you want to go to Kenya, you want to go to Rwanda, you use a national ID. You don't have necessarily to have a passport. And then 3 also, major important, still under the economic affair, under the economic domain, there is also the issue of a simplified trade regime. In other words, we are good, small-scale traders, especially cross-border traders, are able to move with goods within the partner states without paying custom dues. You don't pay for example, if you have your maize here and you want to take it to Kenya, you don't have to pay for customs dues as long as you have a certificate of origin which say that there is proof that these goods are from Uganda and they're going to Kenya, and as long as also they are goods not more than $2,000, $2,000 in value. So these are a few benefits under the customs union. Now we have a one-stop border post. In other words, when you are crossing, going to Kenya, for example, you don't need to reach Ugandan side and they check you. Then you go to Kenyan side, they check you. You move once. When you are from Uganda, you stop in Kenya, where you will find Ugandan officials working together with Kenyan officials, and they clear both goods and individuals to move.
Okay. All right. Now there is progress under, that is the progress under customs union, but I would like for us to also look at progress under the progress under Commonwealth. Common market, sorry.
Yeah, sure. As we had earlier indicated, regional integration from the theoretical perspective can be seen majorly under 4 pillars. So one of them, as we have said, is a pillar on customs union, purely which enhances cooperation to deal with the, taxation, to deal with how we deal with customs within our region. And of course, one thing that I can add on that to what my colleague has mentioned is the fact that the East African community has come up with what we call the external common tariff. The external common tariff is that as a region we have agreed, or we agree and sit and negotiate, that this is going to be the rate at which we are going to deal with trading with the non-members. So we have a 4-band structure external common tariff that helps us to trade with other external people, but also majorly helps us to deal with how we protect our nascent industries. But specifically under the common market, now common market is purely you shift the gear in your integration process. That now, since we are one community, we are now trading together, then it becomes apparent that you must discuss and negotiate in terms of how the whole process of especially working together as a market in ensuring organized movement of goods, organized movement of people within the region, in terms of putting in place protocols, rules, regulations that help you cooperate in that space. So under the common market, of course, we have made a number of strides as a community. Of course, as mentioned, we negotiate to ensure that an East African citizen should feel free to move from one partner state to another. And in order to do that, we tend to harmonize as partner states a number of issues that facilitate the movement of people and goods. As we have mentioned, we harmonized and came up with one single East African passport. Now that passport, the features in that passport, the difference in the passports of East African community is the cover, where the cover says East African passport, then Uganda. Then another one has East African passport, Kenya. But the rest of the issues within the features of this passport are the same. And this gives us a global identity that whenever we are going, people see us as an East African citizen. Further, we have also negotiated that those countries that had machine-readable national IDs, especially in this case was Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda, then they should allow their citizens to cross their borders using national IDs. At the moment, there are still discussions with other partner states to allow the same. Of course, we also have attained a number of milestones in terms of trade facilitation. In order to facilitate trade, there is a very big component to do with infrastructure. We have an East African Road Master Plan where the partner states negotiate and say that these are East African roads. In order to facilitate trade, I must do to connect these roads. So sometimes we negotiate together to design these roads, to get funds for these roads together. We have an East African Railway Master Plan, or part of the SGR is part of that big project. We have a lot of cooperation in the aviation sector, where now we are harmonizing issues to do with the airspace. We are trying to negotiate to have an East African airspace, but we started with the lower issues to do with the safety and security of the East African airspace. We are now negotiating into having what we call the East African single market. So there are a number of so many milestones that we are undertaking under that space of the common market to ensure that we are one market. That, in other words, if I moved from Uganda to Kenya, I face the same conditions, I face the same. It's a very slow journey, but it's a very promising journey.
All right,
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, Mr. Musige, coming back to you, still speaking about the milestones of the East African community integration, what are some of the milestones that have been achieved in implementing the monetary union protocols?
Thank you, Madam Presenter, and thank you, our viewers. The Monetary Union Protocol was signed in November 2013, and the major reason was towards moving to single currency, because we realized that we lose a lot of money through the process of exchange. When you go to Busia and Malaba, you find people seated with bundles of money. The same in Eregu, the same all these other border places. So in the process, there is a lot of money lost, and also, of course, for purposes of improving business, we are supposed to have a seamless flow or easy exchange, even within our banks. So it was signed, and we had a roadmap for 10 years. We're expecting that by 2024, we would be able to have the East African currency. But because of a number of challenges in the process, the time has been postponed, and because of a number of other factors. Now we assume, we expect, we have a new roadmap that we shall get the East African, we shall get the currency. This is 2031. That's when we expect to have the currency. And of course, there are a number of issues we have to deal with in between to make sure that that we are able to achieve this.
So still on the currency, how is that supposed to work when we get it? Does that mean that individual states will no longer have their local currency? We will all adopt one currency, that is the East African currency?
Not necessarily that. It will depend. You see, for example, the EU, you have euros, but we have other countries which continued. For example, we have UK, it continued using its pounds, and the other money was also, the euros also works there. So it depends. I think at that time, partner states will agree. For example, you can find that a country like Kenya can say, well, whereas we are going to allow to use the East African shillings, we are going to maintain our what?
Our Kenyan shillings.
Our Kenyan shillings. Or Uganda may say so, or another country. So at that time, we shall have to agree. But in between, for example, if you move, even like recently, when you move to South Africa, or you go to Lesotho, or you go to these other countries in between there, you find they are using both the rand of South Africa and their local currencies. So the same might happen with us, depending the levels of negotiations we shall have reached at the time.
Okay. Now, Dr. Musime, coming to you now. Let's have a look at the political federation. What is the current status of political federation, and how far are we from achieving full integration?
Thank you very much. Of course, the treaty, the ultimate goal for our EAC integration as enshrined in the treaty is to have political federation. When the founding fathers of this new community signed the treaty, they envisaged that East African community must be a federated state. And without federation, maybe we shall be making very many strategic mistakes that maybe we made so many years ago. So the founding fathers felt that if we were able to achieve the federation, then we would be able to avoid so many mistakes that some of the countries made many years ago, including, issues of, being separate, fighting each other, allowing colonialism to break through, and so on and so forth. So with that aspiration, what the community has been doing is to cooperate in the political space, so that then we move towards building a stronger federation. So we have a stronger cooperation in areas of defense. We have a stronger cooperation in areas of peace and security. We have a stronger cooperation in areas of foreign policy coordination. But over and above, then there was a decision by the summit. The summit is the meeting of heads of state, that as a community, in as much as we are aspiring to get to political federation, because of the differences and many challenges we are facing in the community, we can start by going through a political confederation. So it was decided that we start with a confederation. Now the difference between the two is that when you have a federation, you have all the power at the center. So in this case, you have one single government, which we call a federal government, and then the rest become federal states.
Is that the same thing that they have in the United States? Yeah,
more or less like that. So that was the aspiration. But because of the intricacies and the differences and new members joining, then it was decided that let's go through a confederation. Now a confederation would mean that you negotiate, you have the center, in this case the East African community, but the partner states will sit and negotiate, which powers will be ceded to the center and which powers will remain with the partner states. So in this case, we are going to remain with our partner states, but agree to put up a confederal government at the center. But as partner states, we shall negotiate and agree the powers of the confederal state. But then this is going to be used as a transitional model. So it's not going to be an end in itself. So we are going to be at that stage, learn through that confederation, but with an aim eventually to make our own East African Federation.
Okay.
So currently what is ongoing is that a decision was made that then we need to put in place a constitution for the East African Confederation. Now a team of experts was selected. Each country brought 2 experts and 1 person to deal with drafting. Fortunately, from the Ugandan side, the experts include the former Chief Justice, Dr. Benjamin Odoki, and Professor Tanga. And actually, when they reached in the EAC, the experts appointed Chief Justice Emeritus Odochi to be their chairperson. So now what this committee is doing is moving through the East African partner states to collect the views of the people about the kind of confederation they want. So after this process of national consultations, then they will draft a model, what we call a confederation model. Now once this model is negotiated and accepted by all the partner states, then they will develop a constitution for that model, and then we shall be in the confederation depending on what views might come out from the people, and then this will determine how long we are going to be at that stage, and eventually we lead into the full federation.
The full federation. And how much time do you think this is going to take?
Of course, currently it's a very, as I mentioned, a very slow process, but the summit, the 24th summit that sat last year, decided currently under the consultation stage, Uganda, Burundi and Kenya have finished their consultations. So the rest of these other partner states were given up to 30th June this year to have finished their consultation. So if that stage is done by June, then the experts now will sit to deal with the other stages. So we can't put a timeline, but we hope that if this is achieved, then it will give a stepping stone for the other softer processes of drafting. Because now what is happening, this committee cannot move until these consultations are completed amongst the partner states.
The partner states,
Yeah.
all right. Now, still with you, Doctor, how effective has the East African community been in harmonizing trade policies, tariffs, and regulations among the member states?
Of course, how effective, we can say it has been very effective because number one...
Has it though? Because we are looking at some countries not being able to export certain goods to other member states.
Yep. So, no, first and foremost is that the first line we have put in place, we have agreed and negotiated and agreed on certain laws that manage our trade relations as a community. That's a first step, that we have the common market, we have the customs union protocol, we have East African standards that we have adopted. That's a plus.
Okay.
Now, every year we sit and make an East African budget, and each of these countries, when they are making their budgets, they sit and negotiate at the region in terms of how they are going to manage their national budgets and plans. Now, each country sometimes during that financial year, they can go to the Council of Ministers and they ask for what we call a stay of execution. They ask for a waiver because sometimes you might find that, for example, as a country X, in this financial year, we want to protect this particular product, or we have more productivity in this particular product, then we can go to the region and negotiate and ask waivers from the region in terms of how we are going to treat that particular product in that particular financial year. Now, these stays of application have been one of the major reasons why some countries start blocking or refusing certain products from partner states.
Yes.
Sometimes, again, the other challenge is that sometimes we are more or less similar communities, similar states in terms of our productive capacities, in terms of our products. So we produce more or less same products. So sometimes there might be overproductivity in one country, and of course they use internal measures or administrative measures to ensure that what they have produced can be fully consumed in the market before they allow others. Of course, which is not allowed within the East African community, because it should be quota-free, tax-free for all our goods to move around. So yes, I agree with you, yes, that the level of effectiveness might be challenged in some way, because we have seen incidences where some countries have been blocking products from other countries. Precisely, we call those ones non-tariff barriers, which exist from time to time. But as a community, we again have frameworks through which we negotiate and discuss those problems, and we try to solve them. Yes, they appear, but from time to time we negotiate and make sure that some of these are resolved to ensure that we continue the level of cooperation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Musige, I would like for us to have a look at some of the achievements. And the key here is the key successes that stand out in terms of trade, infrastructure development, and regional connectivity.
Yeah, like, of course, we talked about trade. We talked about the seamless flow the movement of goods, like we said, and from or maybe, of course, Mombasa, we call it the central corridor because we have two corridors, the central and the southern. Southern is the one from Dar es Salaam all the way up to Kigali and Bujumbura, of course, via Uganda, and maybe up to DRC Congo. Then we have the central one, is the one from Mombasa, Malaba, Kampala, Mbarara, up to DRC and Sudan and Burundi. So there is, like I said, there is a fast flow of goods. Goods move. Goods move. They are not bad. They are not stopped at the borders because most of, especially for transit goods, they just come and they say these goods are going to Rwanda, and they just come. They are cleared because we have systems that when the goods are leaving Mombasa, they are cleared. They are in the system. So when they reach Malaba, they are just cleared and they move. Like I said, within 4 days, they are in Kigali or they are in Burundi, which was initially, like 2 weeks. So now that's trade facilitation and the improvement in doing business. That is one. And under the infrastructure, of course, like we are saying, we have had a number of infrastructure projects together, both on roads and railway and even power. We have some power stations we have done together, like the Nsongezi between Uganda and Tanzania. And like the roads now we are talking about, Kenya has worked on its SGR. We are also going to work on ours. Those are the EAC projects. We have the infrastructure master plan for under the railways and the roads. So we make sure that you do your part, and then the other country does its part, and so that it makes movement of goods and persons within the country is very fast. Yes, that under that one. We now also we have also improved on the issues of the one area network. It had been very costly, for example, to call when you are in call Uganda when you are in Tanzania, or to call Tanzania from here. At least with the Kenya and Rwanda was easy, but now under the one area network which you are working on, it's now a bit cheaper to call. You can even call comfortably when you are in Tanzania to call Uganda. So those are now some of the achievements under the economic, then under the infrastructure, then the one area network, and like I said now, movement of our goods. Like Uganda, we produce a lot of milk and sugar, and by the way, we have challenges. People say there are a lot of challenges, but Kenya is the biggest consumer of our sugar and even milk. They take it only that at times they ration. In fact, with the sugar, they have what we call they have permits. The Kenya Sugar Board gives permits to importers of Ugandan sugar. They say bring in, so because they also have the industry. Yes. Mumias industry for sugar, so they want to see how much sugar is coming in. And of course, trade had its politics also to avoid sugar which could be coming in from other areas, maybe like Brazil. Maybe, so they have that system and the quota system under COMESA. But otherwise, the achievements are numerous. And even when you see about, you talk about, most of our maize is consumed in Kenya. Yes. But only that of late we had issues with aflatoxins. Yes, of quality. Like honestly, you can see, even you have been seeing this same battle under coffee. People not doing post-harvesting handling properly. People get maize and they pour it anyhow, and it gets spoiled. So by the time you're exporting it, the quality has gone down. So as the government, with our with other MDAs, we are working together to make sure that we sensitize the Ugandans on how to make sure that all the goods meet the EAC standards.
Yes. All right. Now we are having a conversation about we are having an overview of the East African community integration. We are looking at its milestones, achievements, and challenges. And I'm having this conversation with Dr. Andrew Musime, who is the Head Directorate of Economic Affairs and Production at the Ministry of East African Community Affairs, Uganda, and also Mr. Musime Sam, who is the Acting Commissioner, Economic Affairs, still at the Ministry of East African Community Affairs in Uganda. Now, coming back to you, Dr. Andrew Musime, I would like for us to look at the political differences. So how have political differences like governance issues and national interests impacted the pace of the integration?
Thank you very much. One of the things that we really need to appreciate is that under the East African community, the way we are still is that each country is a sovereign state. And matters of, national sovereignty remain issues of national states. So when we are in the East African community in a number of various policy and technical meetings, one of the major issues that we steer off is the internal issues taking place in any partner states, because for us is an intergovernmental arrangement and intergovernmental cooperation. So we can certainly not be sure in terms of, if there are any political differences between one partner state and the other and how they have to impact. But what the Council of Ministers does is that they put in place protocols that enhance the levels of cooperation within partner states. As I've indicated, we have a lot of cooperation, for example, in defense, and we are talking of major key areas that enhance governance, political space. We have major cooperation in peace and security. And then we also encourage now, the Council has tried to encourage electoral management bodies at the regional level. They meet, they have a forum where they meet and discuss their issues. We, even these days, have a meeting where the anti-corruption agencies meet at the regional level to discuss, and come up with harmonized positions. Therefore, in general, when we sum up all these issues, they are all geared towards ensuring a harmonized process, or try to water down any of the emerging differences that might appear from in the partner states. But in terms of the bigger political space, they remain national matters, sovereign matters, and as a community and the Council of Ministers, they don't directly intervene on these matters in the partner states.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yep.
And I know that our president has also been very vocal on us not intervening, or for lack of a better word, not putting our nose where it doesn't belong when it comes to sovereign states issues. Are there any other challenges that the community is facing when it comes to maybe trade or a full integration, anything?
Yeah, of course, as a community, we face a number of challenges. Of course, one of which we have already tackled is the issue of the persistent non-tariff barriers. Now, this thing called non-tariff barriers is something that actually we encourage researchers, universities to interest themselves in this space, because a non-tariff barrier evolves today. There is a problem between partner A and B, and you go and negotiate and you solve it, and you go home and trade is going to move on. 6 months down the road, it's back. So there is, and that's why we call them recurrent and persistent. So this is one of the major problems that we tend to face as a community. It comes because of so many factors you have seen. But the other challenge that we also see is that it's administrative in nature, but you have partner states belonging to more than one regional economic community. So you have members of EAC, but then these members are also members of SADC. So sometimes when we have, cross-regional decisions, now, if two policies appear at the same time, one emerging from COMESA and another emerging from SADC, another emerging from EAC, then you tend to see some countries sometimes who belong torn between which line they have to take. Sometimes we have international candidatures when we have East African citizens vying for, international positions or posts that require voting. And we decide that as a region we must vote together as East Africa, but sometimes we find a country in another region taking,
and that region is also asking that we vote as
the vote
like
in
the
that.
AU voting that is supposed to take place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's one of the major challenges that we see. Of course, last and more importantly, of course, we are still struggling in the education space, especially to do with recognition and the harmonization to one. Of course, some public universities have taken a step that if I'm a student from any of these East African countries, I would pay the same fees. So we still have the same fees structure. Of course, the East Africa was declared the higher common education area in 2019. So we are one higher education common area. So
what does that mean?
It means that as a region, we should have one education system. Now,
that's why Uganda now has the competence-based curriculum, and Kenya is also adopted the
yes,
same.
so we are moving towards that under the coordination of the Inter-University Council for East Africa. But then moving forward, the ultimate goal would be that every citizen would study from here and then would move to Kenya or anywhere and get a job straight away.
So qualifications that work in Uganda should be able to get you a job elsewhere in East Africa.
So we are working on one, quality assurance for all these universities to ensure that there is that kind of assurance that, the qualifications we get are good qualifications and the same. Number two, we are trying to negotiate issues to do with, removing work permits, that, work permits should not be there. If I'm a student, a worker from Uganda, and I've moved to Kenya, then I should be able to get a job without looking for a work permit. We still have challenges in that field because some sectors, they still require citizens to pay work permits. Then some bodies still want to recertify some
academic
qualifications and professionals, that I'm a doctor, I've qualified in Uganda. If I go to a partner state, then I have to do some other, those are some of the few challenges that are still existing. But the good thing is that we are open day in, day out to discuss these issues and improve and try to ensure that as a region we attain all these achievements and remove most of these challenges.
Now, earlier you did mention something to do with travel, and you said that someone can now, a Ugandan can move to Kenya, or a Kenyan can move to Uganda and Rwanda, or using a national ID. Does this apply to all the other member states? I will take that to you, Mr. Msige.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Like we said earlier, that integration is a process. You move one step to another. They say that when you are eating an elephant, you eat it piece by piece. So there are that group which is trying to move faster. You hear about what we call the coalition of the willing. But what I can say here is that the national IDs, as of now, it is the partner states of Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda which are allowing national IDs, people to move using national IDs. For the other countries, they are still studying the system. Like we said, like my colleague said, that there are some matters which are of internal matters. We are sovereign states, and some matters are handled by partner states as sovereign states. So, like issues of land, like these issues, local. So the issue of travel also, other partner states are saying, wait a bit, we are going to join you, but you can first go. We are coming. So for travel, the national IDs, there are these 3. Okay. The rest will be on board with time. With time.
Now, the issue of visas. Is it visa free for all East African member states, or some still require for someone to pay for a visa, maybe at entry?
It is supposed to be free visa in all these partner states. For example, the only country I know where you're supposed to, which had not yet cleared properly, is the DRC. With us, we allow their citizens to come in Uganda visa free, but I think because of the nature of DRC and some of the challenges they have, and of course they have just joined.
But so, Somalia joined last. Does Somalia give us free visas, the rest of East Africa?
Somalia, I haven't confirmed yet, but with DRC, DRC is like a federal state. There are other Democratic Republic of, there are other regions who are not so much interested in this integration. But we are working on it because we gave them, we allowed their people to come on a reciprocal basis. They're supposed to do the same. But of course, we are trying to work. We are working hard between our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and theirs to make sure that Ugandans, when they go to, they actually don't pay visa. But their system hasn't properly changed.
Okay. Still with you, Mr. Musige. Let's have a look at the way forward. How can member states strengthen their commitment to regional cooperation and integration?
Yeah, I think member states are committed. For example, when you see Uganda, for example, we call ourselves, I think almost the three partner states, the regional partner states of the EAC, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, are the founders, are the fathers of the integration.
Yes.
We are so committed to regional integration, and I think all is being done to make sure that we move to what our fathers wanted. And by the way, it is not the forefathers of Uganda, maybe the Nyereres, the Botes, and the Kenyatta. This one was the plan of the Kwame Nkrumahs and of those days. It was a plan, in fact,
way before independence.
Way before independence. In fact, they had wanted that maybe we should all get independence on the same date. But somehow it was not possible. So all these partner states, you see, they enjoy, like we said, we have cooperation in 17 areas. And for example, if a foreign country, we have cooperation in peace and security, in defense. If you attacked Uganda, you would have attacked, like you have attacked East Africa. So we have that cooperation. We can be able to defend the borders of all the
East African.
So it is very important that that one, among others, shows you how committed we are, and also especially in trade. You see, the quick fruits have been the issues of trade. That you are able to sell your products to a bigger East Africa of 340 million people. So if you are able to produce your goods here, goods of good quality, you are able to transfer them. We call it transferring, because now it's like under the CET, we are like one country. So you are able to transfer your goods and sell it within the region at very good prices. So we, like we said, we have those 17 areas. We have cooperation. For example, you saw when COVID came, we were all working together,
yes,
making sure that the East Africans are safe and healthy. So we have cooperation in all these areas: health, defense, trade, culture. Recently we had the cultural gala here in Uganda, involving some East African countries and across. You hear of the games, parliamentary games recently in December. I think all the parliaments of East Africa were in Mombasa for the parliamentary games. Then the Ministry of Defense, then the police, then the what. So there is too much interest, and maybe I would say there are other countries which, if you told them that leave East Africa, they can sue you, because they feel now they belong to this is a big corporation. They have the big brothers who makes them more comfortable. So there is no, I'm seeing no threat or no reason whereby someone can say that I no longer need East Africa. East Africa has brought too many benefits to all partner states, and everyone is a beneficiary.
Okay.
Maybe I just wanted to raise something very small.
As your parting remarks.
Yes, related to this.
Yes.
Is of course every country that is in the East African community definitely has interest to be in the community, because the three original members joined under a treaty which they negotiated together. So the interest was affirmed. All the other joining members have gone through an application process. You know, everyone that came after the three has applied, has shown interest that I need to join. So they show interest. Then we go and do a verification. Then after verification, see that they are eligible members. Then we do a negotiation. Then after negotiation, they are admitted. So all these partner states, including DRC, Somalia, have gone through that process. So therefore, the level of partner state interest can never be doubted by any other member. So as partner states, we have belief that each partner state that is joined is in the EAC, has EAC at heart, has EAC at interest. Now, of course, the challenge is that each of these new members that come, they negotiate what we call a roadmap of integration. Now, during the roadmap of integration, some countries become slower in implementing some of the commitments that they made during the admission. And this is where much of the problems emerge from. But we have belief and trust that all the East African countries love the community. They will stay in the community. They will work towards making the community stronger. And we have no doubt about their commitment in the region.
Well,
thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. We have been having an overview of the East African community integration, milestones, achievements, and challenges. And I've been speaking to Dr. Andrew Mosime, who is the head of the Directorate of Economic Affairs and Production at the Ministry of East African Community Integration, Kampala, Uganda. But also, I've been speaking to Mr. Msige Sam, who is the Acting Commissioner Economic Affairs at the Ministry of East African Affairs, Uganda. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, Good Morning Uganda does continue. Up next, sports updates.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
UK
can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen is right. It is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, my name is Ruben Pima. I did watch, actually before going to the NBA, I did watch the interview of Dirk Nowitzki, the former NBA star, this morning. It was around 3 a.m. when I just found that on the NBA channel. He did talk about the current players and he did speak about Steph Curry and LeBron James. I liked his version of Steph and how the defending today has actually a chance to score more points anyway. But Dirk Nowitzki and Kevin Durant were really we're just players made for NBA. Anyway, once again to give you sports. I'll take you through the game that we had this morning. The Wolves did beat the Wizards. That was 120-106. We had the Pistons beating the Knicks 119-124 for the Pistons. The Raptors did beat the Warriors. The Warriors team that won 3 in a row. I remember that team that had the man I like most, skydiving, and of course Kevin Love. No, those were in. Kevin Love was never at Warriors. Sorry, but Kevin Love was at the Cavs when they won the championship. I remember that. When they had to come from 3-1 down to win the series 4-3. What a game of basketball. They had a trio, the famous Kevin Love, Kyle Irving, LeBron James. Then, of course, the Warriors team that had the big men from Andre Iguodala to Draymond Green, to Klay Thompson, to Steph, as well as one of the best players I've watched in my time, Kevin Durant, who was also one time at Warriors. And they were breaking down every team that came across. What a team that they had. But Steph is still there, and Klay Thompson left the Warriors. Anyway, they did lose to the Raptors. Then the Rockets did beat the Grizzlies. That was 118 to 120 for the Rockets. And tomorrow morning, as they come into studio at 3 a.m., we shall have the Pacers against the Cavs. Then Joel Embiid, the 76ers, will take on the Thunder. The Thunder is the team supported by Famba here, the Thunder. That is OKC. Then also we'll be able to watch at 3:30 the Hawks taking on the Suns. Then the Bulls will be in action against the Pelicans, and the Bucks will take on the Kings at 4. At 5:30 the Mavericks will take on the Nuggets, and lastly at 6, as we get into studio here, the game will be commencing between the Blazers and the Brooklyn Nets. That is the NBA for you. Away from basketball into football, we have the Premiership action returning tonight on our screens at 10:30. Brentford will take on Man City. That will be away from 8:30. Then Chelsea will take on Bournemouth at the Stamford Bridge. West Ham and the new manager, that is David Moyes. No, not David Moyes. Potter will be in action against Fulham. Then Nottingham Forest will take on Liverpool. That will be at 11 p.m. But remember, the first leg ended 1-0 in favor of Forest. So we are waiting to see if they can have a double against Liverpool this time round. Then of course in the Bundesliga, Kiel will take on Dortmund, Bayer Leverkusen will take on Mainz, Frankfurt will take on Freiburg, and Wolfsburg will be in action against Gladbach. That will be in the German Bundesliga. And of course in the Serie A, there will be a couple of games. Como will take on AC Milan, the Rossoneri. Then Atlanta will take on Juventus. Good game to watch for those who love football. You can always go and catch Atlanta against Juventus on your pay TV channels. Well, unless otherwise, I've got to go. I think that's it from sport. Be here, Olive, Monica, Najuma, John Paul, Sonk, and Robert will be here to take you through. But of course, I'll also be returning to give you the highlight of what happened today's games, and of course NBA. So I'll be able to return tomorrow here and take you through. But I believe for the bettors out there, Como might be in for a beating by AC Milan, or even Atlanta might show Juventus that Thiago Motta of course Gasparin is not somebody who can joke with, and Ademola Lookman being the main man at Atlanta, maybe Juventus can be shocked. You never know what can transpire there. But anyway, join us tomorrow. 6:30 will be here. I've got to pave way for Robert Chirabunyo to take you through GMU Extra. Good morning.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world. Hold